WWE video podcast is back. As you can see, I'm not in Zubaz, I'm not in a fanny pack, because we don't have a local wrestling jabroni as our guest this week. We've got the esteemed King of Weston, Curtis Howson, joining the program.
Hey, thanks for having me, Danny.
We're excited to have you. He is the owner and operator of FirstRow.ca, but also a lifelong professional wrestling fan, a good friend of mine. We've had many discussions about the business, but one of the reasons we have you on the podcast today is because you're going to have a valuable insight to local wrestling, because you've been watching it for well over 20 years now.
Well over 20 years.
So
I think, I started watching it. WMWA used to come over to Weston Community Center. And then from there, I was one of the locals that go to River City Wrestling every Wednesday at Chalmers Community
I was
Center.
in there in the crowd with you, me, you, and Buddy Weiser.
Yeah.
Not even knowing that we'd all be connected one day.
So that means we just gotta get Buddy Weiser on the show here next, if that's the the connection.
The Twin Towers, Curtis Howson and Buddy Weiser. There was money missed. It
Yeah.
should have been a hot angle in River City Wrestling. I'm surprised it wasn't. But there's
Yeah.
still time, because River City Wrestling will be back someday, I'm sure.
I hope so.
Incarnation.
Before we get to the history of Curtis's lifelong local fandom, we're going to talk about some big things happening in professional wrestling today. This is going to air next week, so hopefully it's not too outdated, but it's a huge shakeup in professional wrestling today. It's rumored that the night after Wrestle Kingdom, it's been announced that WWE has signed AJ Styles, Nakamura, Doc Gallows, and Carl Anderson. I don't think WWE has confirmed that as of right now, but that is what's been heavily rumored, because all four did give their notice to New Japan Pro Wrestling, so all signs would point that that's where they'd be going, because there's nowhere bigger than New Japan Pro Wrestling than WWE. What's everyone's thoughts on that?
Or CWE, it's one of those two. It's either WWE or CWE, but we'd be letting the cat out of the bag if we...
Definitely, and that goes without
They
saying.
didn't confirm it, but they did say something. They did post I don't know if it was an article, but I saw something on Twitter from their official account that acknowledged AJ Styles, Nakamura, and whatnot, and the rumors and whatnot. So I would imagine they're not going to play into wrestling rumors unless there's some sort of truth to it. So I would say it's very likely confirmed at this point.
And that's all my news feed's been today. It's all over the literature.
Yeah.
People are excited about it, and these are the kind of moves and like the things that happen that get people excited and talking professional wrestling. So now, if it is confirmed, people are going to be eagerly awaiting. When does AJ Styles show up on Raw? What's Nakamura going to do in WWE? He's not your typical WWE performer.
Are they even going to be in WWE?
Right? So it leaves a lot of questions, and it gets people excited.
One of the things, too, is that they have Finn Balor, who's the former leader of the Bullet Club, right? So, I mean, that could be another thing, too, that he might make his debut with them.
Well, in the last 3 or 4 months, they've started printing up Baylor Club shirts, and he started wearing leather jackets similar to what he used to wear in New Japan, and kind of changed his look up a little bit. So one would think that maybe this has been in design for a while now.
Even if Finn Balor is one of the original members of the Bullet Club, does it look tacky on WWE's part to kind of rip off what New Japan Pro Wrestling's doing when they're kind of viewed as like the top dog?
I don't think
Or does it make sense to kind of, because they're trying to attract that indie crowd now, they're trying to attract that smart marks per se, so does it make sense to try to capitalize on what they're doing, or is it kind of kicking that's the New Japan?
I think they would do that if their angles aren't getting over as they'd like to. I think if they bring these guys in and they're hot out of the gates, and they'll have no need to address the past connections with the Bullet Club and with anything else, but they come in, they're kind of falling flat or just not quite where they want to be. Like, okay, then they'll say, hey, let's try this and let's do some tongue-in-cheek shit, right? I don't really know what to make of what they're going to do with them, though, because guys have come over in the past where it's like, holy fuck, they got Ultimate Dragon, hey, they got this guy, they got that guy, and fuck all, right? They've had 2 of these 4 guys before. They had AJ Styles before, and he was on fucking WWF jacked, jumping up and crash ollies, right? And I remember watching that.
He was a much different spot in his career, though, at the time.
I knew who he was. I was like, holy fuck, they signed AJ Styles? What the fuck is he doing on metal or jack or whatever fucking one it was? And then he just jogged hard to crash ollie. And I was like, well, I guess that's where he's at.
I thought the same thing when I seen Brian Jewell job to The Undertaker back in the WWF arena, right? That's the River City Wrestling Heavyweight Champion job. The Undertaker.
Why did they drop the
Blade
ball?
slap in the face to River City Wrestling.
Why did they drop the ball then?
Who's this Bobby St. Laurent guy? Is that Bobby J or Bobby Janetti? What's that about?
See, here's the thing though, is NWO, where did they get the idea for that?
Well, they bought WCW. That's a different
No, but where did the NWO idea came from? It came from Japan. They did something very similar in Japan leading up to it, and it became one of the hottest things in wrestling of all time. And other than WWE, the Bullet Club is the biggest thing in wrestling right now. so it makes sense from a business point of view to cash in on something similar.
Speaking of cashing in, you're talking about Buddy Weiser. How about Todd Bullet Club? Myself and Buddy Weiser with Todd Bullet. That's money.
You guys are kind of like
Club,
you guys are kind of like Gallows and Carl Anderson, like
Kind
Ox
of.
Anderson.
Ox Anderson.
Hey, my God, is that
But I think it was Travis that mentioned it to me earlier that the WWE Network just launched in Japan today as well. So the timing it makes sense. That's why they did what they did and when they did it, because the WWE Network completely changes the game of professional wrestling. Because it's not about just drawing that rating anymore. They're making that revenue off the network, and everyone's saying, "Oh, they're trying to cripple Ring of Honor. They're trying to cripple New Japan Pro Wrestling." They're running a business, so they want every wrestling fan in the world to be dropping $10 a month on the WWE Network. So if Nakamura is the hottest talent in the world, well, guess what? You pay $10 a month and you can see him each and every week on NXT or on Raw. AJ Styles, one of the best wrestlers in the world and somebody people have been wanting to see forever. Well, guess what? Now you have to pay $10 a month to see him. Now that they have all these guys, now they can do all these dream matches, and guess what? $10 a month is going to cost you. Which is a lot cheaper than buying a Ring of Honor pay-per-view. It's cheaper than buying a ticket to a show. They've really, really cornered the market now where if you want, like, it's a one-stop shop for professional wrestling. Anybody who's anybody is going to end up on that product.
Yeah. You don't think though, like I just watched Japan, you don't think that fucking Japs have been changing their IP addresses and getting that shit for if they want it, they got it already, man. Come on.
So it's going to be interesting to see how it all kind of plays out. I think you're going to see a lot more of that, and I think it's a really good thing for the business, because if you look back when WWE, WCW, and ECW were running, there was like 300 or 400 wrestlers under contract.
Oh yeah,
making a good living in the business. So now that WWE...
In North America,
exactly.
That's never mind overseas.
I think it was like over, I'm trying to remember the number, I can't remember if it was like 150 or 300 or something. It was something like that in WCW alone.
Yeah,
so they used to just hire guys so nobody else would have them.
Yeah, they had close to 150, I want to say, at any given point in WCW when they were running the... Because you'd watch Saturday's main event and they'd have, 36 guys on there.
Barry Darsow said he's getting paid like 150 grand a year and he worked like 6 matches.
Oh yeah,
Lanny Hoffman didn't work one man. And it used to be like that, where they would sign somebody up and they would just sit them just so they wouldn't be a benefit to another company. And not that kind of war is happening right now, but it's good that WWE is scooping up top international guys, because now Ring of Honor's got some spots to fill, New Japan's got spots to fill. Mike Bennett just left for TNA. They're looking for new guys, so it keeps the wheel moving. Because for a long time, it was the same guys on top in every organization. It wasn't necessarily stale, but it was like a lock on the spots.
Stalemate, I guess.
Yeah, like guys, it was really hard for guys to break through and get an opportunity because everybody had their crew, they were kind of using it. So now there's some shuffling going on, and WWE is willing to take a chance on indie guys and international guys. It's now going to open it up for top indie guys that are on the brink of getting their break. Guys like Chase Owens and Jason Kincaid, Todd Bullitt, Knox Anderson, guys like this who are waiting for that big break. They may now get that call from Ring of Honor. They might get that call because now they need to fill those spots. And if somebody gets hot, then somebody's going to scoop them, and then the cycle continues. So I think it's really good for the business in terms of the wrestlers getting opportunity. And it's really good for the fans because they're going to constantly see new talent, and that's something that was neglected for a long time.
Oh yeah, definitely. We had a seminar. I don't know if you attended with Terry Taylor a few years ago.
That's before I broke in.
Yeah, and even then he goes, a lot of people think, hey. They got their top guys. He's like, well, look at the past umpteen years. It's the same fucking top guys. They need new guys. Just nobody's been coming along. That's that they've deemed worthy kind of thing. And now they're taking these chances, like you said. And now they're realizing like, oh hey, there's interest in bringing in a Samoa Joe. Oh hey, there's interest in bringing in Bryan Danielson. Oh hey, there's interest in whoever, right? And it's really. Breathing some life into their product, and they're aware of that. As long as they handle it properly, that's the thing. I don't know if you're on the end, who's doing the majority of the booking for the NXT product, because that's where
they have like a head writer there, and then they have agents just like they do with WWE, but on a smaller scale. But
it's a different team though.
It's a different team than the WWE team.
Okay.
And the good thing about that too is like NXT was a developmental, so everybody that was going through there was going up to WWE, or that was the initial vision, and now it's become its own brand. So now it's 2 rosters to fill. It's not just one roster of 30, 40 guys. It's 2 rosters of 30, 40 guys. So it doubles the paid spots. Yeah. And then on top of that, I imagine they still want to develop guys underneath. So there's going to be another crew of guys that they're going to get ready for NXT or WWE.
Or they'll be in NXT, just not television.
Yeah,
You know,
so
yeah.
it's just really good for everybody
So
involved.
one of the questions I have though is, you know, if they're bringing in AJ Styles and bringing in Doc Gallows, Machine Gun Carl was the guy you said, right? Are they going to use those names, or are they going to come up with NXT names?
No.
Yeah, I'm curious to see, like Samoa Joe, they kept, I imagine
Yeah.
AJ Styles is a big
AJ Styles,
entity that you
yeah.
keep his name.
Right.
Everyone else will probably change, I would imagine.
That's the thing, like since they got the network, they've kind of let more guys keep their name because they're trying to appeal to that smart mark or that different audience that follows their indie darlings. So it's gonna be
AJ Styles
interesting.
be AJ Styles, though. That's a given.
Maybe AJ Sanchez?
Yeah.
Like they're gonna sign him or they're gonna change his name to
Change
that?
his name to that. I mean,
Well, he's
that's
from Georgia, that's not too far from Mexico,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like geographically.
not too far.
I think you need to work on your.
That's a different.
Well, in the grand scheme of things, it's not too far.
Yeah.
No, compared to where Winnipeg is from Georgia, it's
Yeah.
It's not that
Winnipeg to
far.
Las Vegas. That's
Georgia's
not
never,
that far.
Georgia's only just down the street, brother.
Right.
But I think I love how the networks changed the business because when they first brought it in, everyone's like, "Oh, the pay-per-view bonuses are going to be cut. Guys are going to be making less money," and maybe they are. I don't know the financials behind it, but in terms of more guys getting a job, it's going to
out
be
there
great
now.
because let's be honest, I don't think Samoa Joe or AJ Styles would have been on the radar if they didn't have the network and they were trying to draw in these different kind of wrestling fans. If they were just
Different
catering,
demographic,
if they were just trying to cater to the WWE audience or the WWE universe
Mm-hmm.
per se, you would never see an AJ Styles pop up on Raw. And if you did, it probably wouldn't be in the prominent spot that he deserves. But now because they want to attract you to that network and buying the pay-per-views and buying the live specials, they know they can put an AJ Styles in with a Samoa Joe on NXT, and people are going to pay to see it.
Oh,
or,
yeah.
Bryan, or Daniel Bryan when he's healthy, or any of these guys. There's so many big matches now that they could sell a special every month just based on some dream match that hasn't happened yet because they have everybody or close to everybody.
Exactly.
Well, that's the thing though too, is now they can cater to different audiences. Raw is going to be a different audience than NXT. So if a guy's up on Raw and he's not getting over, well, let's send him to NXT and we can try some things down here, maybe retool this. Or if a guy's more of a better fit for what they're doing on Raw, then maybe he goes up there and does his thing there. They can shuffle guys around and try.
Same thing what they did with the White family, right? They tried that up there and it worked. And like when it's doing, on Raw every week.
It's kind of in a sense like when they had the territories, if somebody didn't get over or they'd been there too long, they would go somewhere else to stay fresh. So now you could be a guy at NXT, go up and work for Raw for a year and then come back down, and you're constantly being.
Look at a guy like, or to take the opposite of going from NXT to Raw, take a guy like Tyson Kidd who wasn't doing anything on Raw and went down to NXT and got himself over and tried something new, and then he went back up to the main roster and got himself over and was doing a lot. So you can now flip it the other way, and they can maybe he's not a fit for this audience. They try it down here. Oh, now he's getting a buzz. Let's try putting him back on Raw.
And see, me as a fan, that's awesome, right? I mean, each product is better with the talent they bring in. Not only me as a fan, but you guys as wrestlers, that benefits you guys too. That's more spots for you guys to work.
Mm-hmm.
So that's great what they're doing.
It's really great because a lot of like the diehard wrestling fans say, I don't really care for the WWE style, and that's always going to be what Raw is because that appeals to the masses. So they're always going to have that, but they can still make money and generate revenue by doing the indie style or the more modern day style. Maybe it's not going to generate the same money as Raw and SmackDown, but it's going to generate enough money where they can still profit and give guys opportunity. And with it being a touring brand now, guys can go to NXT and make a good salary instead of going down and working for $500 a week in developmental or whatever it used to be in Ohio Valley.
And you know what, whether it works out or
now.
not, they can go back to the indies and they got that name, right? They've
Yeah,
got
they
fresh on TV.
Rob, yeah.
So I mean, it's great for the business.
It's really good in that sense. Like we might lose access to a lot of guys, but those guys are always going to be circled through because you're going to have new guys there. So it's constantly having guys come down to the indies that are going to be helping draw on the independent level, and that's a benefit.
Yeah, you can flip it now and say too that now guys are seeing guys like, say you look at an AJ Styles, or even a better comparison even would be Doc Gallows, who used to work for WWE and for TNA and whatnot, and then went off, got himself over in Japan, and now he's coming back.
Sex Ferguson.
You've got guys like Solomon Crow, Sammy Callahan, who's now going back by his own choice because he wants to now go places and get over and do his thing there, and then maybe he comes back and has a buzz about him again. Or someone like CJ Parker, who is doing absolutely nothing. In his eyes, he felt like he was doing nothing. And
Is there any relation to him and Sergeant Buddy Lee Parker?
Uncle.
Is that so?
He was that molester uncle that touched him.
Oh my.
That's why they don't discuss it on air.
But while he wasn't on Wrestle Kingdom the other night, he did work the show the night after, and now he's working in New Japan. So guys are now trying to get themselves over in different avenues, and then maybe that leads to them coming back. So there's opportunities for everybody on every level now.
Tie it back into.
So it's sort of going back to that territory thing, right? Like the same kind of idea, right? You know?
And that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
To tie it back to local wrestling, I guess a big fallout to this big move of 4 guys going from New Japan to WWE today is Kenny Omega, Winnipeg boy, is now stepped up, and he's the new leader of the Bullet Club. He's graduated from the junior heavyweight division and is now announced that he's going to be competing in the heavyweight division and is the leader of the hottest group in the industry right now. So somebody born and raised who worked Chalmers Community Club, just like my former tag team partner.
I worked in that Morris place, it might have been his 4th or 5th match.
Probably one of 4 or 5 people.
Yeah, probably. It does. I didn't give it a good.
Good dozen.
Good dozen.
And now he's the leader of the hottest group in the world, and now he's getting an opportunity to be on he was on a big stage, being the junior heavyweight champion there, but with him being
I think we're talking about Chalmers being the big stage.
well, it's a big stage. It's kind of like the Cork and Hall of Winnipeg. But now, I would assume with him being the new leader of the Bullet Club, he's now going to be in those main event spots for the heavyweight championship, which is big money and big opportunity in New Japan.
Yeah.
At the very least, he is challenging for the Intercontinental Championship against Nakamura, and if indeed Nakamura is going to WWE as reported, I would assume he's going to win that championship.
What was
So
Kenny? He would build them all. That's why he left developmental.
He left on his own accord.
He left on the court, but then after there's some of the build a bot that
He didn't get along with Bill at all.
Is Bill DeMott still there?
No, he was like, I think there's like a ton of allegations and controversy.
Yeah, beating guys up and shit, eh?
Yeah, just like hazing and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
that's
I don't know if
right,
any of it was,
that's right,
there's
yeah.
a lot of guys that have told lots of stories, and I don't know if any of it's been confirmed. I imagine there's got to be some, there's fire.
Yeah, exactly.
But I guess we'll carry on here with all these big developments. For the first time ever, the WWE Championship is being defended in the Royal Rumble match itself.
that's not true. It's being sort of
Defended,
yes.
It was on the line.
Flair did win it once.
That was big.
But this is the first time the champion is entering.
That's
right.
Well, the champion's been in the match before, but not on the line when Hogan was the champion.
In the early years, before
Yeah.
WrestleMania,
This- yeah, it's
was
first
the
time
high
it's
on
been-
Friday.
yeah.
What is everyone's thoughts on this concept?
You know what? The Royal Rumble for the last few years has kind of been wash, rinse, repeat. And I think this is a nice little spin on it that'll, put some more eyes on it, kind of give the casual fan something more to tune into and be like, oh, hey, maybe I won't miss this year, Like I would kind of watch one, don't watch one, watch one, don't watch one. Yeah, maybe I will watch this one now. Like it's kind of piqued my, and I'm almost like that with the Rumble. I try to catch it every year, but I won't. If I do have something else, I'll be like, well, I got this going on. If I'm on the road for work or whatever kind of thing, that's when I miss it, and I'm not heartbroken over it. I'm like, fuck, I'll check it out later, kind of thing. Right? Whereas, with Mania, I'll make sure I watch Mania.
I'm the other way around. Royal Rumble's my favorite.
Yeah.
It's always been my favorite. Just the intrigue of like who's coming out.
Yeah. You're
Who's
always
gonna show up? Who's that guy that's
There's always a couple of surprises.
Boogeyman or whoever. Yeah, exactly.
My only critique of the Rumble in the maybe in the last 5-10 years maybe is you usually know going in who's going to win. So
Well,
like
social media, right?
so the intrigue of like who's it going to be this year. It's like, well, I know this guy's going to win. Is either this guy or that guy. So my question is with WrestleMania being an event that sells itself now. WrestleMania sells out regardless.
Sure.
It's going to have the big headliners. It's going to have Undertaker. It's going to have Brock. It's going to have The Rock. It's going to have these guys, so it's guaranteed to sell out. Would it maybe be worth taking a shot and putting somebody over in the Rumble that you wouldn't expect to win?
Well, I
to
think
give
so.
somebody that ball, to take away that,
I know some guys that have gotten a shot, like when Alberto Del Rio won it, right? That was kind of being put to the next level.
Yeah.
They've done that in the past, and it's worked for the most part with who they put the stock in. Sometimes they put on a guy who's already there,
Right.
But
because the thought is you go on to main event WrestleMania, but you can still have, say, the gobbledygooker win the Royal Rumble, go on to main event the actual pay-per-view, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's the big attraction.
Yeah.
Like Brock Lesnar can still be the attraction on the undercard and selling the pay-per-view.
You see, what they would do before to fuck around was when there was a SmackDown title and a Raw title, they put over whoever, Alberto Del Rio. Well, he's second match in on Mania because then the other titles were fucking main event with Triple H.
It doesn't technically
Benoit.
mean, yeah.
Whoever.
Actually, I was just thinking, it was actually, they did that, it was, I think Edge won the Rumble one year, and the year that his last match with Del Rio was the champion, and they were the opening match on the show.
Yeah.
Which I thought kind of devalued the
And same
concept
with
of winning the Rumble.
Mysterio the year he won, he was like the opening match on the show, and then
Whatever.
and I was kind of, and obviously that doesn't go unnoticed, and you're like, well, that's kind of bullshit, but that's their way of, putting a dark horse over without having to put them in the main at Mania and take that big of a
Right.
shot at it kind of thing, but now with one strap, they kind of hand the tide, like, okay, what's going to be the hottest angle, and they got to more or less kind of run with that, right?
Well, that's the thing, that's why I like the idea of defending the title in the Rumble now that we talk about it, because Roman Reigns is your champion. There's maybe 1, 2, 3 guys that are going to win the Rumble. So by doing this, you kind of have a direction of where they're going. So it looks like Reigns is going to say Triple H, for example. Well, doesn't mean that somebody completely out of left field is going to win the title. They'll still do Triple H and Reigns, but doesn't necessarily have to be for the title. So by doing this, it kind of adds intrigue to the Rumble. Really, anybody can win it.
I don't know. I'm not a wrestler, but if I was, I'd find it insulting that I was main eventing the match, that I had to rely on the Rumble match itself, to defend my title. I don't know what you guys think about that, but
Did they explain what would happen if, say, Heath Slater wins the Royal Rumble, he wins the World Championship? Who does he defend against?
No, they haven't.
How does that work? Is there probably another match?
There'll probably be an elimination chamber in February.
So it really is changing the whole concept of the Rumble.
Well, they used to have to do that with the second title anyway, right?
Right.
They had 2 titles. They had
Or somebody will win the
challenge
shot, and they put the shot on the fucking line anyway.
Yeah, so if Roman Reigns wins and retains his title, they still have to figure out who's going to be challenging him for it. So
Yeah.
I guess in a way it is a way to build up intrigue going into the
Leaving
next
doors
pay-per-view.
over, yeah,
But
but
I
it's
like-
not a direct path for me to be.
I like the idea of if Reigns had say defended against whoever this month and retained, you figure whoever's winning the Rumble, it's probably going to be Triple H or somebody like that, or a Sheamus or something. But by defending it in the Rumble now, it's like maybe John Cena comes out and wins, and now he's defending
Which is
against
gonna-
the Undertaker.
Probably, yeah.
Or maybe the Undertaker comes out and wins. It literally adds that intrigue to the Rumble of
Shows
it's
up
not
in
just
the
1 or
ring.
2 guys that are going to win. It could be anybody, and I think that makes it a little bit more exciting. And apparently the Rumble is free this year for new subscribers to the network, so this is probably a way for them to attract more people, I would imagine.
We've been asking our guests every week, because it hasn't been announced yet, and there really is no clear-cut direction. Who do you think the main event of WrestleMania is this year?
You know what? You gotta go back to John Cena, right? I mean, he's the go-to guy. So maybe Cena and Reigns.
Where do you think they go with that, if that is the case?
I'm trying to turn Reigns heel, and I don't know.
Or is John Cena hated enough where Roman Reigns would finally get the babyface reaction they're trying to give him?
Well, he's gonna get that. For sure, he's gonna get that. But I mean,
Because they kind of have similar reactions where
Yeah.
half the crowd boos, half the crowd cheers. So would you get a mix of that, or would you get a decisive? Well, we really want something
I think-
different than John Cena.
I think
so-
that people would probably shit on the match for sure, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, do the match
I
itself.
think-
Yeah.
Funnily enough, I think in the last few months, they've actually turned the tide on that a little bit with Cena's U.S. title defenses. He's started to become more cheered than booed. People are starting to appreciate the amount of work that he puts in, because usually the people that are booing him are your work rate fans, your guys that want to see that 5-star match. So with the great matches he's been putting on, I've noticed when I've watched, the trend has been that he's become more popular. And now that Reigns has been starting to get more of a positive reaction.
I agree and disagree in the sense that John Cena's always had awesome matches. He's completely undervalued and underappreciated as what he can do in the ring.
Yeah.
I think maybe fans are more open to him now because he's not constantly in the main event. So it's okay, he's still having those great matches, but we're also going to see other guys in the main event while he tears it up in the undercard.
Yeah.
So in the fans' minds, yes, he's not in the main event anymore. We can relax and enjoy and appreciate what he's doing without being, forced 5 segments a night with them and things of that nature. But he's in these movies and stuff now that are getting really over, and Vince really likes to push guys that are in mainstream media a lot. So I would imagine with him being, you know, in that Amy Schumer movie last year, he's in that new one with Tina Fey, he's on his own TV show.
Yeah.
So if he's coming in for WrestleMania, they're going to want to heavily publicize him. So it would make sense for him to be in a big match going in.
Especially if he's going to be doing the talk show circuit. They usually want the guy who has the championship with them on the
Right.
talk show circuit. So I could see that very likely being a thing. I see why not.
And other news, Chris Jericho returned. He's announced that he's going to be in the Royal Rumble. Any thoughts or excitement about Y2J's return?
Yeah,
He's winning the Rumble.
No, he's not. He'll start an angle with someone in it, though. He'll start an angle with someone in it that'll go into Mania, and probably someone that, you know, is newer to the roster in the grand scheme of things, so that he can, you know, give them a rub at Mania and
Then they'll have a new bug coming out, or Fozzy will go into her and we'll see him again for them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you know, maybe put him with Kevin Owens or someone like that.
It used to be special when he'd come back because at the time when he was taking those hiatuses, like the workhorses were very few and far between.
Yeah.
But now the roster's pretty stacked. You get the same kind of excitement when he comes back. Like he has always been a great talent. He's
Yeah.
always put on great matches. Does it still have that same appeal to you when he comes back now?
To me, it does. Like ever since he was, you know, in the WCW days, I've been a huge fan of him, kind of thing, right? So it's just, to me personally, like, you know, it's like, yeah, cool. This is a guy from back in the day who still looks pretty damn good, can still get it done, still works his ass off, and you know,
He's one of the last guys from his era that are like around. When you think about it, like broke in 91,
yeah.
and he's still going and putting on
Yeah,
those
it has,
matches.
it
Like Bobby J broke in 91, and he's had to slow down
He's had to
considerably.
slow down,
Like, he can't
yeah,
go and
he's
put on the
had to
same
change
style as Jericho
No.
did. And,
No.
did you ever watch Jericho live in Winnipeg?
I did actually. I seen him live at Sinclair Park Community Center.
Really?
Back in like
So-
1992, and on the same card would have been the Chicago Bull. One of your
Did you wrestle the Chicago guy?
no, he didn't wrestle him, but I think one of your guys, one of the guys in the broadcast team, Dave
Petro.
I think he was on that card too. So you'll know about the Chicago Bull. Another guy that was on there was Red Bastien Jr., one of my personal faves.
Chris Jericho called him the shittiest wrestler ever on his podcast.
Yeah, you know what?
Yeah. Hardy was pretty offended.
Stephen Richard
Yeah,
told me the
yeah,
same
Hardy
thing on the
too.
Ever Sick podcast, and I don't agree with that. You know,
You don't
like,
agree with that?
No,
That's
I like him.
no. Red Bastien Jr. Yeah.
It was way worse than that.
Have I told the story of Bastien on the podcast before? Like,
No.
there's a memorable story for me of Bastien. They used to do the Osborne Street Festival shows just down the road from here, actually. They'd set up the ring in front of the Osborne
By the zoo.
by the zoo, and it'd be a Canada Day party. People would party until all hours of the night, like this big street festival gimmick.
Yeah.
I remember it was one year, myself and I think Justin Ty may have picked up some talent at the festival because we were big local wrestling stars at this
Yeah.
festival. So naturally, when you're a big wrestling star at a street festival in
The
Winnipeg,
ladies will flock.
they're gonna flock.
Yeah.
And for some
Like
reason,
Kilo type girls.
Pilo actually came along for this.
All right.
So it was very awkward. There was me, two fine ladies, and Pilo in a hot tub. And Pilo was trying to like angle any which way he could to be involved in a three-way dance, like with whatever way he felt he could get in, but ultimately it didn't work.
Were they marking out for people's chest pubes?
I don't think they're marking out for him at all, actually. I was. I was.
was. Yeah.
Oh, actually, and so not to sidetrack here, but I did get confirmation that Pilo is alive.
Oh,
I
was
met-
he beaten to death?
No, I was at a New Year's party, and somebody asked me if I knew who he was, and I explained I did, and he was in my training class.
Any update on the tulip?
No, not on the
No,
tour.
He died.
But we do know,
No,
nobody
he did.
knows, but
He did, yeah.
Pilo vanished about 8 years ago,
Yeah.
and we didn't know if he was dead or in jail due to the allegations of why he went disappearing, but he is in Winnipeg. He was seen a month ago. So we're at this party, me, Justin Ty, Pilo. Pilo's not getting over, surprisingly, you know, being like a 45-year-old man with like these young girls just didn't fly for some reason. And I remember we finished up at the party, and there's a 24-hour subway just down the street.
Yeah.
So I put in some time and you know, need to refuel the body with some nutrition. So I went down. Why are you shaking your head, Travis Cole? Why are you shaking your head? When you have sex with a woman,
They had the prime rib foot long at the time.
yeah, you need to replenish.
Different era.
You need to replenish your body with nutrition afterwards. One day when you have the opportunity to have sex with a woman, you'll understand.
New story.
I don't know. So it's not even really much of a story. So we finish up, it's like 5 or 6 in the morning. I go to this 24-hour Subway. I'm eating my sub, and I just happen to like look to the left and out the window, and here's Bastien, shirtless, walking down Osborne Street. Like, the streets are empty, it's a ghost town.
Okay, yeah.
And Bastien is walking down the street shirtless with a giant sword over his shoulder. Like a shoot sword. It was like this long, just walking with this sword over his shoulder, just walking down Osborne to wherever it is he had to go.
With a sword.
With a sword. And I was just like,
Slay a dragon.
just like, that's Winnipeg wrestling.
That's it in a nutshell. It's a typical day.
That's a typical day. So we're going to take a break, and we're going to get to the life and times of Curtis Howson. Also, well, we'll get into what you're also known as. We'll be right back.
Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father.
He told me enough. He told me you killed him.
No.
It's cold, man.
Back with the second part of the interview. As you can see, Travis Cole has stepped away, but I want to apologize to him. I brought up the fact he hasn't had sex with women, which is in fact a reality, and it kind of hit a sore spot, so he's wiping his tears in the washroom right now. He's going to regain his...
Isn't that making a hand vagina right now? And
yeah, so he's going to regain his composure. There's nothing wrong with being a 24-year-old man and never having had sex with a woman. It's completely natural and normal, and he'll get
Girls
there.
think it's cute.
He'll get there when he's ready. There's no pressure. Like, if you're one of those people in his position, do not feel pressure. It's completely.
You're talking to wrestling fans. There goes like 75% of your audience.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it at all.
If you're Sidney Manson's 37 and hasn't had sex, so
he hasn't.
No, he's damn proud of that fact. You know, he claimed his bias in court, but there's nobody that would sleep with him without cash being on the line anyway.
So Travis and Kai or Sidney Manson have something in common other than the wrestling abilities.
Cut from the same cloth.
They're cut from the same cloth. When he's coming back here, we'll talk to him about it when he gets back here in a moment. Travis, we're talking about your lack of sexual intercourse with women. And Kevin mentioned that Kai has also never had sex with a woman, so we just brought it to everyone's attention that you two are cut from the same cloth. Other than your wrestling abilities, there's other similarities.
Oh, well, thanks for the compliment. At least,
Yeah.
you know, it's always good to get a compliment when you're in between the burial.
We're going to start talking the business and the long wrestling fan life of Curtis Howson, known to...
Still real to me.
It is
Still real to me.
Still real to me as well. You're known to many people, and by many people I mean like me and a few of my friends, as PGA Perry Gabriel Anderson, the gimmick that never was, but maybe one day will be.
Yeah, actually it was back in like the PWI days, right? I used to be a subscriber. Actually, I wasn't a subscriber. My grandma would buy me the magazines when she go to Safeway, and in the back there'd be like. You create your own wrestler.
Yeah,
I remember those.
Oh yeah,
you could pick a
pick your
face.
move sets.
It was like right next to like the apartment wrestling ads.
Yeah. Yeah. That's another
Yeah,
podcast.
that would be the first thing that you think of.
We'll talk about Boston another time.
The band, right?
But anyways, yeah, the band.
What was the feeling, bro?
That's how PGA came about. You know, like you had to come up with a name, and I came up with the name Perry Gabriel Anderson from Augusta, Georgia. And so I submitted my wrestler. I sent my $10 check, and that became PGA.
Can you give us an explanation of the gimmick?
I was just a golfer, from Augusta, Georgia, dressed in golf gear.
How did it
Any reason
differ?
why you chose Georgia?
Augusta, Georgia.
Augusta, Georgia.
That's a popular golf town.
Popular golf town, and also a territory where my good friends, Big Jess, Bobby Sharp, Heavy Metal, a lot of the Edmonton boys, they've been through there, so yeah,
They worked on the wild side
sort of
there.
paying, for Bill Barons
Yeah.
and JC Dirksen.
And how did the PGA gimmick differ from hole-in-one Barry Darson?
It wasn't. I think I came up with it before Barry Darson, I want to say, and when I seen that on WCW Saturday Night, I marked out big time because I thought, hey, that's PGA. That's what I envisioned, right?
Maybe you sent your check to WCW and they took your idea.
Hey, Bill After probably sent it over to Dusty Rhodes.
Yeah.
Do you think if you were put in the same position as Barry Darson, you could have got a little more mileage with the gimmick?
No, probably not. The fact of the matter is, he's a 6'5" white dude. I'm a 6'6" Aboriginal guy. Not too many of us golfers out there, right? So, yeah, I think he got as much mileage as he could out of it.
Well, you just used the term fact of the matter, so your 80s and 90s promos gave
Yeah.
Fact of the matter is.
Watching the WWE Network lately,
Yeah, so as far as your promos go,
Yeah.
So you've been watching wrestling in general, but local wrestling longer than a lot of guys who've even been alive in that wrestling now. Take us back. We always talk about like wrestlers' careers and how it started. Go back down memory lane and
So-
give us your first memories of watching local wrestling, how it came to be. How did you first stumble upon local wrestling?
My stepdad was a big wrestling fan, so he'd bring us to matches around the city. We'd go to Sinclair Park, Weston Community Center, and that's where I seen guys like Bob Brown, Kerry played Paul Brown, Robbie Royce, who was one of my personal faves. That's one guy I thought that should have made it. One of the best matches I've ever seen live was Robbie Royce and Steve Carino from Le Rendezvous back in 2001. And I tell him that every time I see him. And they'll probably mark out for that I'm mentioning it right now.
That match is on YouTube too.
Yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah, type it in and it'll come up.
A lot of people
That's awesome.
will remember the match between Team Impact and the Assisted Suicide. But I'd have to say that the Carino and Royce match, the first time that they squared off, that was probably the best match I've seen, from the front row as a fan.
What was the first ever local show you went to?
Probably Weston Community Center, and that would have been the Natural, Don Callis, Bob Brown, all the big names like that, like Red Bastian Jr.
Being somebody who's been through so many generations of local wrestling, how would you compare, say, the early to mid '90s wrestling to what it is now? Local?
Just you know what, like now to go to a CWE show, you feel part. You feel like you're part of the show, right? It's that you feel like you know the guys. When I go to a show, I feel like I'm part of it. Whereas before, the production wasn't there, and like guys are in better shape now. You guys are have your proper gear, and you walk in and you know that you're watching a wrestler, and not just a guy with putting on his dad's pajamas and calling himself it's huge differences now.
I remember the first local show I went to was in 1997. It was at Sinclair Park Community Center. It was 2 blocks down the street from my house, and it was on the billboard, CWF Wrestling. I had never heard of local wrestling. I didn't know it existed prior to that show, so I was really excited that there was wrestling just down the street from my house. I went to the show, and now I know a lot different, but at the time I thought all these guys were like major league guys. They were wrestlers. I didn't know any different things. Like I didn't know there was indie wrestling and big wrestling. I just assumed Canadian Wrestling Federation. That sounds like it's important.
I used to see CWF shows myself too, and that's when I got exposed to guys like Darren the Bomb Dalton, Hysteria, who turned into the Mentalo. I mean, those are two big names from Winnipeg.
Sure.
Do you remember any guys locally when you first started going to shows that you thought were like larger than life and like big time stars because we're young and naive? Like I thought some of the shittiest wrestlers ever were awesome. Like when I first started going to shows, I didn't know any different. I was a kid, and some of them captured me for different reasons. So is there anybody that stood out to you who's like, man, this guy's fucking great, and then when you smartened up, you're like, what was I thinking?
Oh, there was Bonanas. I don't know if there was a guy that worked the Bonanas gimmick.
Yeah, I think that was Tom Steele, actually.
Yeah. That would have been one. You're putting me on the spot, you know, like, who would have been another one? I don't want to offend anybody. They're probably watching it, right? So, but I don't know.
Nobody really watches.
Yeah.
Whoever it is, worse has been said about it.
Right.
This is more of a vanity project. Nobody actually watches it.
But yeah, I just something drew me to the product that I always wanted to come out as a fan, and you know, it was probably the incredible cheesiness of it, and someone like Wayne Stanton added to it. I knew what I was watching, and I enjoyed it. You know, that was my my theater. That was, you know, my escape every Wednesday at Chalmers.
Who was your first local wrestling autograph?
Crybaby Levinsky.
Dave Levinsky.
Dave Levinsky. Yeah. Wayne had released a coloring book. I think this might have been back in 1994. And I went around and got the guys to sign it. Yeah.
With a crayon?
It might have been a crayon.
He was doing that coloring book.
That might be worth something. That might be worth something if you still have it.
I have to look around. If I have it, it's for sale at www.firstrow.ca.
I used to have tons from when I was like 12, 13 years old going to shows. And I remember that first CWF show I went to, I was like at the top of the stairs waiting to get everybody's autograph. I got everybody's autograph on that show except for Mentolo, because he wore a mask at the time and he covered up his whole body. So I had no idea who he was, never mind that he was black. Like, I had no idea who I was waiting for at the top of the stairs, so I got everybody's autograph but him, and I waited until the end of the night.
He even had fake hair in his
head
too.
Little did and then when I found out, like, when I broke into the business, like, he was just starting then, so he was like the first guy on the ring tearing it down, so I'm waiting for somebody that was nowhere near where I was, and it was not out anytime soon. So you were around like in the late '90s when River City Wrestling started up again. That kind of started like the first little promotion.
Top rope championship wrestling. I was there for that, and that's when it really.
Were you there for any like the RCW stuff at Chalmers, like when they started with like Kevin Cannon and that original?
Yeah, I would have been there for that. Frenchie Mitchell was he part of that?
Yeah. So it was like shortly after that they that Ernie bought River City Wrestling, and then Bobby J started TRCW, and it started like, I guess, like the first real promotional war. There had been like some smaller ones where guys tried to start up like Power Pro Wrestling and stuff. But this was like the first full out, like, we're going to war, like the Monday Night Wars. As a fan,
Wednesday Night Wars.
did you have a preference on which product?
No, I remember there used to be the Yellow Pages thing. You'd call in, and one week it was Wayne, and then the next week I call in and it's Ernie Todd. So I mean, I don't know if that was one of the tactics, the war tactics there, but yeah, they were heavily at war back then. But my preference would have been for a while was the CWE. I think CWF.
Yeah, because it was one Wednesday it'd be CWF, the next Wednesday it'd be TRCW, and they would go back and forth.
Oh, you're talking about RCW and CWF.
TRCW
was way better than
because Ernie bought RCW.
Right.
The way it went down is Ernie bought RCW, and then all the RCW guys, none of them wanted to work for Ernie, so they went to Bobby J, and Bobby J started up TRCW.
No, TRCW was way better. You know, you had guys like Donnie DiCaprio, Playboy Will Damon, Shane Madison, Kenny Omega, Mantolo. Hands down, they beat CWF.
What drew you to the TRCW product over the CWF?
Just the overall production. You know, when you went in there, they had strobe lights. They had, just guys that you knew that were gonna be something. And Kenny Omega, there he is now, right?
So like the more athletic, like younger style, more appealing to you than like the old rough and tough, hardcore CWF.
Well, it got stale, right? You got sick of seeing Caveman Broda every week. No offense to Caveman Broda, sorry. But it was the same thing week after week. And as I got older, you started to get a little smarter to it, right? Like there were still stars to me, but I got a little smarter to the product, and I started appreciating the athletic side to it. So for sure, it was TRCW that beats CWF.
When TRCW was kind of like mounting some momentum to kind of try to counteract that, CWF like went the other direction, was doing the first ECW style stuff in Winnipeg. Did that appeal to you at all?
Yeah, like there was options, right? And that I liked that there was options, and I like the fact that Ernie was bringing in guys too. He was bringing in Steve Carino, Dan Severn. I think I seen a young Finn Balor. I'm pretty sure he was there.
He was there. He was there in 2008 at the anniversary show.
Yeah. So I like that aspect that Ernie was bringing in talent, but I also appreciate that TRCW was building their own, and those guys went on and
they brought a lot of guys, like young guys, that were like traveling through because they were running so many shows. They'd run like 3-4 shows a week in different community centers, so it was common that guys from different parts of the country just come here for a week or two to get like 10 shows. And like a young Austin Aries worked for Bobby and Johnny Devine, and a lot of guys.
Ken Anderson, Mr. Kennedy, that was another one, right? So yeah, I appreciated that in that era, right? The Attitude Era, and then we had TRCW and CWF.
Was there any guys from that time that you felt were going to be breakout stars before they were?
A young Zach Mercury. I thought he had the size and the package of sorry, the package.
So you're still really naive at this point?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any other wrestlers from that time that really stood out to you as like being, like cut above the rest?
I don't know where you're going with that. No. At that time, just the Madison, DiCaprio, and Damon. I mean, those are the guys that you thought were gonna go on to big things, and to the extent they did, right? Like those guys were able to draw crowds, and without having to bring in talent to do it. And that's the same thing that you guys are doing, right? Sure, you bring in Colt Cabana, or you bring in a star every month. But, as a fan, you're not going there just to see them. You're going there to see guys like Travis Cole. You're going to see Kevin Chevy, Danny Duggan, right? Kevin Cannon.
So after that whole war kind of went, there was like another one with PCW, rating TRCW. I don't recall you really going to a lot of PCW.
Yeah,
did you never really get behind that?
Yeah, I got behind that. I still with the.
Was that like in the early days of PCW? Because I don't remember you being there for too much of it when I was there.
I was there for the later days. I think you were gone. Like after the whole shock and awe thing, I think you might have been fired or working somewhere.
Probably.
But
I
caught the tail end of it. Like, are they still running shows?
Once in a while, yeah.
Twice a year or so.
I think they're running a little more frequently now. Travel lounge,
Yeah, so like I went to the shows with like Petey Williams and Samoa Joe, but it was what it was, right?
So now being 20, 30 years older now from when you first started watching local wrestling, what is it that attracts you to a local wrestling show now? What do you see differently, and what do you like to see as a mature wrestling fan?
Just the whole production value. I don't necessarily have to go to every show, but I could follow it, from social media standpoint. I could follow it on CWE.ca, CWCanada.ca. I could watch the YouTube channel, and I know what's going on. There's storylines that are happening. It's not just spot matches where, 1 week it's Kevin Cannon versus Travis Cole. I know the story behind it, why it's happening, and it's not just a match that's happening because they need to fill a card. There's a story behind it, and I like that.
So, comparing the 90s, the 2000s, now this generation, what would you say is different? Like, what are some of the wrestlers from the current crop that have stood out to you in the last, 1 through 5 years or so?
I think there's more commitment, right? The guys now, they're more presentable. They got the tans. You can tell they're working out. They're putting in the work. They're watching the videos, watching the tapes. So I can see that, and I know that they're there to move on and get to places to get to WWE. Whereas when I was watching it in the early '90s and late '90s, there was a good portion of the guys that were just there because it was their beer league baseball or beer league hockey, right?
All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we're going to be back, and we'll chat some more local wrestling.
CWECanada.ca.
We're just huddling in here.
Yeah. We are back and we're in a different location. We felt really bad about putting Travis on the spot about not having sex with women, so we've relocated back to the closet where he's most comfortable to wrap up the final portion of the show.
This is the office, not the closet.
You would know the difference between the two. I'm a little too jacked.
About being in the office, I wouldn't know anything about that.
Go get an office.
Or
Doesn't know anything about that either.
or that.
We're gonna make PJ a little uncomfortable. We're gonna make him shoot from the hip here.
Sure.
I'm gonna play Rob Feinstein. You're gonna play Curtis Howson, and we're gonna go back in time. And you're gonna give us some of your memories of local wrestling right off the top. Who are the top 5 greatest local wrestlers of all time from your 20 plus years watching here locally?
Top 5, you know, I gotta say.
Or greatest 5 even.
Greatest 5, coming in at number 5 would be the natural Don Callis. Number 4, I gotta give it to my boy, Robbie Royce. At number 3, Mentolo. Number 2, my good friend over here, Danny Duggan.
Wow, number 2.
And at number 1, my good friend, rest in peace, Kerry Pitbull Brown.
Wow, that's quite the top 5.
Yeah, that's
There have been many people who have compared Danny Duggan to number 2 before, so
quite commonly.
it's quite fitting.
We're gonna turn around to the other end of the spectrum. The worst 5 wrestlers you've ever seen step foot in a Winnipeg wrestling ring. And if you want to share a memory or a story of them while you're at it too, that'd be great. And why they're on that list.
Okay, in no particular order, coming at number 5, a guy named Butcher Bates. He wrestled for Top Rope Championship Wrestling. You know, what can I say about him? I wish there was Botchamania back in the day because, you know, they missed out on some good footage. At number 4, Sidney Manson. I'm sorry, you know, it is what it is.
no apology necessary. I was listening to my commentary during his matches.
He's so fantastic, he scared poor Sigmund away, and he's just now coming back for the anniversary tour.
Exactly.
2 years later.
Number 3, D-Lish.
Delish.
Yes, I don't know if you remember Delish.
I remember Delish.
Delish at number 3. Number 2, the Masked Messenger. Yeah.
Solid, yeah.
And at number 1, a guy that I watched, the Chicago Bull.
The
Chicago Bull
himself.
Why was he the shits?
Just a shitty guy. You know, it's probably one of those guys that trained, maybe, you know, went in and did a couple DDTs and, you know.
I know that's what I learned first.
Yeah. And they figured, hey, we got a spot for this guy, and we have a Chicago Bulls jacket, and we have a pantyhose that he wear over his face, and
You wear pantyhose over his face?
Yeah,
They
pretty-
changed
yeah, it was
on Charlie?
yeah. No, it was like a black pantyhose with like cutout eyes.
Okay.
Like he was a robber, like he was gonna rob the liquor store kind of thing. Like,
Yeah.
Oh,
So
good.
yeah, you know, I did continue on. There's
Let's hear some more.
We had a guy named the Gravedigger.
The Grave
Yeah, he did the Undertaker gimmick back in the early '90s at Chalmers Community Center. We had the Hunter, who was an Aboriginal guy that came to the ring with Tomahawk Gene Swan, and I think they just gave him that gimmick because he had a camouflage jacket.
Did he come like with like a bow and arrow?
Nope. Just came. You know, we had his camouflage hat and the jacket to go with it. And
He was just like a manager.
yeah, probably one of his cousins or something like that. Yeah. So.
I know names like I've never even heard of, and I'm like a local wrestling connoisseur.
Yeah.
Gotta dig these guys up for the next Rumble.
Oh yeah.
yeah, this is who you're giving a call to.
The outer patient? Is that
The outpatient.
The outpatient.
Warren
Okay.
Wilson. Yeah.
Yeah.
He did a Rumble already.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
And someone tried to shoot with
I think him and Chevy almost got into a fight.
Yeah, someone else. No.
I think him and Chevy almost got into a fight on Facebook actually, leading up to the Rumble.
Yeah.
I think Chevy said, "Who the fuck is this goof?" And
Yes.
then they started shooting back and forth.
Yes, and,
so I intentionally put them like beside each other in the Rumble, like an entrance.
Chip Fletcher was gonna shoot with him or something
Yeah.
downstairs too. Yeah.
But I don't think they knew
Remember
who
that
each other were when they got there, so
yeah.
nothing ever happened.
Who was the guy that did like the Matrix kind of vampire gimmick?
Lord Wolstein?
Lord Wolfstein. Yeah, we'll put
He's
him
one of
on
my
the list.
favorites. He's one of
Put
my
him on the
favorites.
list. You know, we got to do a greatest 5 of this. You know, we'll for sure do this on greatest5.com one of these days.
Yeah, let's do it.
Right.
All right, give me some of your most memorable or favorite matches in local wrestling history.
Okay, number 1, I've already said it. Robbie Rice and Steve Carino, the first one, just unbelievable. You know,
Unbelievable.
yeah, it was an unbelievable match.
Only in the CWF.
Yeah, at the time it was, you know, ECW had just finished up, and it just
No one was having matches like that locally at that time.
No, at that time, no,
not
no,
at that time.
no.
Now, yeah, but yeah, then.
And then they got that formula, and then they did it all the time. It was like every match was like that, right?
Exactly.
But I mean, that was the match that kicked it off here in Winnipeg. So I'd say that one. Mentalo, Kenny Omega, those were unbelievable matches too. A personal favorite of mine would be you and Kerry Pitbull Brown. Just
First ever CWE show.
first ever CWE
Which
show.
you reminded me of before we went on the air that you actually helped put together, which I completely forgot about. I was trying to find Kerry and he kind of dropped off the map at that point, and it was you helped me track him down and find him.
Yeah,
For
Kerry.
what would be his last professional
Yeah,
wrestling match.
it's too bad. Kerry was such a good guy. You know, one of my first friends in the business. You know, like I call you and Stefan and Kevin Chevy and AJ Sanchez and Royce. You know, guys that I could call friends in the business. But he was number one. You know, and he never treated me like a mark or anything. You know, just one of those cool dudes that was always there to tell a story and have a beer with. So just too soon.
Some of the worst matches you've ever seen. And you can't pick like any RCW show from like this year or whatever year.
Are you familiar with Weedamaw Gym? Weedamaw Gym, Salvation Army.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the whole card. Yeah.
Which would have had like the Mass Messenger on it.
What it
and
had,
and
the whole alumni. Yeah.
the whole group.
Yeah. The whole stable.
Give me three guys over the years that you thought, you mentioned Zach Mercury as somebody you thought was going to be a big star, but three guys that actually could have been a big star that maybe, didn't live up to their potential.
Wave will start. I don't think he, maybe, he just, it's not that he didn't live up to his potential, he just could have did so much more, I think. He had everything. And maybe it was just bad timing for him. But Wade will start being one of those guys. Mentalo, I think, could have did a lot more in North America, and that's just, maybe not getting the breaks that he should have got. And it's not too late, right? I mean, AJ Styles just got signed by the WWE today. That could be Mentalo tomorrow, right? Mm-hmm. I guess another guy is I thought would have went on to things is my boy Royce again. Just one of those guys that if we were in New Jersey or Pennsylvania or New York, like imagine the guys that we'd see on TV. There's so many guys that deserve to be there, but because we're in shitty up north in Winnipeg in the middle of nowhere.
Winnipeg
we don't get
really
the
does cripple you trying to get ahead.
Right.
I think when we talk about a lot of those guys, I think the potential was there for them. I just don't think they took the bull by the Chicago bull by the horns. As somebody who has aggressively gone out there and chased down opportunity, I have to be on the road and hustling all the time to even make a small dent. And I think just unfortunately due from the era maybe they broke in, they kind of have the mentality of like, oh, well, if somebody wants me, they'll come find me or they'll call me. And it doesn't work like that now, unfortunately. Like, you got to be hustling, you got to be getting your tapes out there, you got to be on the phone with promoters and trying to create opportunities for yourself, because for every promoter that's out there, you want to get work with, there's 100 guys calling that promoter trying to get on with him. So if you're not in that promoter's ear trying to get opportunity for yourself, they're not going to call you when they can call back one of the 100 guys that unfortunately are trying to get on those shows. So it's one of those. Wrestling's very much one of those industries where it's not necessarily how good you are. It's about the right place, the right time, and who you know. So unless you're going out there and pounding down doors saying, "Give me an opportunity,"
and I totally commend you guys for that.
It's tough to get one.
I totally commend you guys for that. There's not a lot of opportunity that's out there, and you got to seize every moment that you get, right?
Yeah.
So. There's minimal spots, and for you to get one, all the best to the guys that are able to be put in that spot to do it. And and I follow you, man, and I think that if we don't see you on WWE TV, at least we get to see you every week on YouTube, right?
That's right.
On the podcast.
That's the same thing.
That's the same thing, right?
WWE's on YouTube. I'm on YouTube. It's pretty much the same.
Yeah.
Thing.
On the level there.
Who's your favorite over the years? What's been your favorite local wrestling promotion of all time?
CWE. Well, hands down, it's the best. The best entertainment. You're gonna get the best bang for your buck. Everything that you want in an independent show is here at CWE.
Good. Now I can positively promote your product, because if you would
Right
have
on.
said anybody about mine, I would have been like, yeah, but there's this other card shop down the street. Who would you say would be the 3 most overrated wrestlers in Winnipeg wrestling history that were always pushed to the moon that you just fucking couldn't stand when they come out the curtain?
Oh, jeez.
They'd be your personal popcorn matches. Where like, these guys fucking suck. Like, why are they pushing this guy?
You know what? I don't know. I respected everybody so much that I didn't see that. Like, I saw the bullshit guys, right? I knew, like, when I was watching the Masked Messenger or the Chicago Bull or guys like that, you know, I knew that was bullshit. But, like, you know, for me to sit here as a fan and try to, you know, talk down about anybody that's gone in the ring and took the bumps and, you know, traveled the roads, that wouldn't be fair, right? So I can't think of anybody, you know, like, anybody that you know, can be classified as a professional wrestler, you know, excluding Chicago Bull and
Messenger.
The
Boogeyman.
Yeah.
So to wrap up the program, let's talk about firstrow.ca. It's owned and operated by yourself.
That's right. Yeah.
Tell the viewer at home about your business.
Well,
this is your time to sell First Row.
First Row Collectibles, www.firstrow.ca. We got everything from autographs to trading cards to vintage magazines. Of, you know, we got hockey, we got WWE, we got CWE stuff, which we're going to start doing again. And right now, we got about 6,000 different products on there. So if you want, you could go on there and use coupon code CWE, and you'll get free shipping on your order.
Awesome.
The collectible hobby's always been something, you know, interesting because as a kid, that's something a lot of people get involved in. I remember as a kid, I had all kinds of hockey cards, Pokemon cards, all kinds of collectibles. That's something as a kid you get involved in. How does something valued? So like the people at home that probably have tons of cards sitting at home, or you know, sitting in their basement that they had since they were. How are these things valued and how are they rated? I remember I used to always get the Beckett magazine and it would tell me what my cards are worth.
Yeah,
how is that determined? And is the industry, you know?
We still use the Beckett to determine the prices of cards, but it's all personal preference, right? I'm not in it to make, you know, millions of dollars. I'm in it because, like, it's a passion of mine, and I like to display my stuff, and I like to collect it. So, you know, as much as it is a business, I also use it as a platform to continue my collection and the things that I sell. You know, I'm using that money to bring more things in.
Tell us about some of the, like, maybe the unique collectibles in your collection that people would be impressed with and maybe come looking for.
I got a lot of game use stuff. That stuff isn't available on the site, but I have autographed jerseys and sticks, and the things that are available, we have over 2,000 autographed 8x10 photos, which are all come with certificates of authenticity. I don't know. It's one of those things that I sort of have to bring you around to show you things because it's just there's so much of it.
Yeah.
Was there ever like a boom and a bust period for the trading card industry?
Oh, yeah.
I know the comic book industry had, you know, the kind of early to mid 90s boom, and then the late 90s to 2000s just dropped right off, where they were printing millions and they weren't worth the paper they were printed on.
Right. We had our Attitude Era too, which would have been, you know, 91, 92.
Right.
That's when, you know,
Upper Deck was making killer fucking cards.
Pro Set and Score, and
Opeachy.
Everybody was
Opeachy. What would like a 92 Ray Force Opeachy card be worth?
It's not worth the paper it's printed on.
No.
It's one of those things that you know, there's a certain era there where it's not really worth anything.
I've got the whole set of the very first, I want to say 92, 93 McDonald's hockey cards when they came out. It was like 36 cards.
Those were like Upper Deck, right?
So they're Upper Deck cards,
Is that kind of like the value that are based? Like, is it based on, like, for like the bigger names? Do they print less of that star, so it's worth more?
Well, yeah, it's a different industry now, right? Now it's all about everybody wants the autograph cards, everybody wants the short print stuff. So whereas like when I was younger, it was all about getting the rookie card.
Yeah, that was the thing.
Get the rookie card. You know, you need Team Slatty's rookie. And yeah, you know, to an extent, you're still collecting the rookie cards, which we call, you know, in the Upper Deck is the young guns. But the cards that you want to chase are like the ones of one of one, or you know, 1 out of 10. Yeah. Those are the ones.
Who dictates what they're worth?
The people that are willing to pay. You know, if you could go on to auction sites like eBay and see what these things are going for. There's some cards that are still going for over $10,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
a lot of like the old cards. I remember like having the Beckett, like you'd have like back from like the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Are those still like big part of like people's collections now, or is it more so about like the big names and like the game worn stuff, or is like having like the old school cards still something people collect and have?
Yeah, that's
part
all
of their collection.
For sure. You know, the older stuff is always going to keep its value. It's that era, you know, from '89 to 2000 that you know, it's sort of. It was just mass produced.
Yeah.
Right.
That is too
So
much of it.
everyone who wants one has one.
Everybody that wants one has, exactly.
There's no supply and demand.
Exactly. Yeah. So right now, I just say it's about what you want. You know, what do you want out of your collection? What makes you happy, right? So
Do you have a preference of sport you collect?
I collect hockey, but I also collect a lot of wrestling stuff. I was a big tape trader. I don't know if you're familiar with tape trading. That's before YouTube. But I used to trade with again in the PWI. We'd get each other's addresses, and I'd record things like WFWA. I'd record River City Wrestling on like Videon, Channel 11 Videon.
Yeah.
So I'd send these tapes to people in New York, and they'd send me ECW stuff, Eastern Championship Wrestling stuff.
Fair trade.
Fair trade, right? So like that's I've always been like that. I've always been a collector, and I've never, you know, that's who I am. So
how many Kelly Rudy cards do you have in your collection?
Kelly Rudy, wow. Too many to count. I mean, come to firstrow.ca and you know you'll see how many Kelly Rudy cards I have.
Maybe like, can we start like, because like there's like wrestling has like some really weird fans, like they want to like buy your underwear and your socks and all this kind of stuff. Is this a service we can start offering through First Row? Like,
hey, if you're looking
buy
for
like a Danny Duggan filled condom.
I was gonna say your used rubbers, but you don't wear them.
I was gonna ask.
It's like Jim Warren, Travis Cole thong and stuff like that. Like,
well, I was going to search around Paul or CD's office and maybe see if we could find something that we could sell on First Row.
So that's firstrow.ca. There's cards, collectibles. Do you trading on there as well?
You know what? Not so much trading, but if you have a collection for sale, you know, if you're looking for a fair price, send me an email and let me know what you got for sale, and maybe I might be interested in buying it.
You have social media as well, correct?
Social media as well. You can find me find First Row
and the social
Collectibles.
Check.
Yeah. You can find us on Twitter at firstrow_CA, and you can also see us find us on Facebook under First Row Memorabilia.
Perfect. And if all things go well, maybe we'll be seeing some First Row booths at the CWE event.
I think so.
2016.
I think so, and we got another. There's another project that we're working on too, and there's myself and a team of writers, and it's called greatest5.com. So if you got the time, check out greatest5.com.
Give us a little bit of a preview of that.
Basically, you know what? It's the greatest 5 anything. If you'd like to contribute to the site, we're looking for writers right now. You know, you can take anything. Like right now, we got, what is this?
Pre-workout mix.
Pre-workout mix. The greatest 5 pre-workout mix to you. So you know, you put that on the site, and people would argue over it, right? Like, well, no, that's not my.
Well, people love to argue.
So people like to argue, right?
Why not supply an avenue?
So with that, if you're gonna put your name on the site and you're gonna give that argument, you're also gonna be able to plug some things too, right?
So I can put like the greatest 5, you know, my greatest 5 wrestlers of all time, and then when people dispute it, I can then write a second article, like the greatest 5 assholes that responded to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Greatest 5 rats.
And you know, they give you the most biased list, but if you can back it up, then hey, put it on the site.
Greatest 5 rat catchers in Winnipeg wrestling, like stuff like that.
Yeah. Kevy Chevy, right? Number 1.
Number 1, definitely.
Can we do a greatest 5 of that?
Of course we can.
Okay. Number 5, Stephen Epic or Don Douglas. Number 4, AJ Sanchez. Number 3.
You're talking about rat catchers?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna say Kevin Cannon. I've heard some stories, man. So we'll put you on there too.
I'll wear that badge with honor.
Number 2, Bobby Sharp, and number 1, I gotta say,
Danny Moore?
Or Danny Duggan.
I've never had promiscuous sex in my life. I do appreciate it, but that would be a false claim.
It's still early in the day. There's still a few hours left.
If you want to talk about the 5 most pure quality human beings in the business, I'd probably rank in that list before that one.
You'd have to talk about it.
We'd have an empty list.
You'd have to change businesses.
It has to be like a new business.
Well, that'll conclude another CWE video podcast. Join us on social media. Check out firstrow.ca, and we'll be back with week 15 in just 7 days.